Society where substance abuse spreads like wildfire. Very few of us are untouched by addiction some way, either directly or indirectly. We may not have the classic loud addictions of alcohol, drugs, sex, or porn, but most of us fall into the trap of the more dangerous and devious ones, the quiet addictions. Our relationship to food, work, success, for example, can serve for the same purpose as oxycodone does for a drug addict. And under each of these desires that's gone wild is a God-given longing for goodness and the restoration that Jesus has in store for us. We need to own this yearning. We need to accept it. We need to understand it. This yearning for holy love that God has put in us. We need to own that in order to experience the healing liberation of His holy love. That's what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. Love's healing power. Holy love's healing power. And I want to do a quick review and a summary of what we've learned so far. First of all, God's holy love is inconceivable. It's inexplicable. It's unexpressible. We can't explain it, but we can experience it. His holy love can be experienced. We can receive it. We are designed to receive it and to experience it. And the final goal of following Jesus as His disciples is that His love, His holy love, will become the motivation and the shaper of everything we do. Or to say it another way, Christ's love will have the first and last word in everything we do. Now, according to Paul in this book of Ephesians that we're studying through this series on holy love, according to Paul, God has in mind nothing short of the full renovation of our human characters. He wants to completely transform us. He proposes to radically transform us. To use a title from a television show, He wants to do an extreme makeover of our characters and our personalities. He wants to move people from being persons locked in behaviors and addictions that are odds with His love and who are governed by unworthy motives and goals, and move them into becoming persons who are holy and blameless in His love. First step in that is to drop the chains of falsehood and live in truth. And these chains of falsehood can be broken when we bravely confess our hurts, habits, and hang-ups to fellow followers of Jesus. And in Jesus we can see that holy love holds hands with holy anger. Most of us have never experienced real holy anger. Most of it has been unholy. And most of what we express is fairly unholy. Broken humans tend to relate to others with one of two mindsets. One is the parasite's mindset that says, give me what you have. This is the thief. Or there's the predator's mindset that says, let me use my power, my control, my possessions to own you and to abuse you and to do with you whatever I want. That's the predator. But see, the Holy Spirit wants to transform us from parasites and predators into God's generous kids. He wants to transform us and give us a partner's mindset that says, let me help you with what I have. God's grace generates generosity in His children. I want to remind you again, because I think it's something we need to remember often, be brought to mind often, and it is that this remaking of our character is God's gift to us. It is an act of His grace and His generosity. It's an act of His love for us. It is an expression of His love. It is not an exercise of our willpower, our grit, or our determination. We can easily fall into the trap of thinking that somehow if we just make a list of rules and obey those commands, that's going to automatically make us grow. When we do that, though, we fall into a swamp of rituals and regulations, and it all becomes about us and what we can do, and frankly, we're still stuck. We're still stuck with the falsehood of saying, I can take care of this by myself. Can't. We're stuck with that mindset of I need to control everything around me in order to become what God created me to be. Well, we turn to another command today. It's in Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 to 30. Paul is continuing to talk to us and to the folks at the church at Ephesus in the first century. He wrote to them, and we're hearing it as well. He brings up another command, one that most of us will probably think it would be nice if he had left that one out, but he didn't. He says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. Unwholesome. I'm going to stop there and talk about that word for a moment. Unwholesome. That sounds like junk food, right? Don't let any junk food come out of your mouth. In one of the Gospels, Jesus told a parable in where a fisherman caught a great number of fish, brought them on shore, and began to sort them, and he tossed out the rotten, unedible fish. So when I say don't let unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, just join me in thinking with me that this picture, don't let any rotten fish words come out of your mouth. Smell it. Want bad breath? Speak unwholesome words. Don't let any unwholesome, rotten talk come out of your mouth, but only, there's that word, only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. So that's what he says. Do not let any wholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up. Don't grieve the Holy Spirit. So here's the sermon in a sentence. I don't want you to clock out once I've shared this, but here it is. Left alone, left to our own devices, left alone, our speech is poisonous. But with the Holy Spirit, our speech becomes health-giving, life-giving, energizing. It becomes a blessing. It gives life. So hopefully somebody's wondering, how do I work with the Holy Spirit to bridle my tongue? Because frankly, sometimes it says things that I don't even wish that I'm sorry it said. Well, I kind of would like to say, well, that was my tongue, it just got loose, but it's still stuck inside my mouth, so I'm stuck with it. How do I cooperate with the Holy Spirit? First step, identify your rotten speech patterns. Latasha Morrison said something. I like these short little poetic one-sentence statements. They stick in my mind really well. Here's one that stuck from a message I heard her share a few weeks ago. God cannot heal what we conceal. It sounds like something that ought to be on the back of somebody's bumper sticker, but a car on a bumper sticker. But it's true. If we never identify our rotten speech patterns, we can't get healing for them. Now, some destructive speech patterns, some rotten speech patterns are very obvious. They're widely recognized. Even people who aren't following Jesus recognize some of these things. We all seem to know when speech is abusive or violent or vulgar or degrading, and we know that it hurts people. Despite all those times that I said, Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. Then why do I remember them? I think we don't understand how profoundly and deeply our rotten speech patterns hurt others, or even us. And what makes this so complicated is that words don't travel by themselves. It's one of the things that I find really frustrating about emails and text. I also found it, for those of you who are a little more old school, I also find it frustrating with handwritten notes. Because you have these words, but you don't get to hear or see, you don't hear the tone of voice, and you don't get to see the expression on the person's face, and you don't get to see the motions of their hands, so you're not quite sure, did they mean this, or did they mean that? Or did they mean something completely different? Words travel with a whole complex set of signals, body language, emotional signals by tone of voice and facial expressions, and thoughts. When we talk, we say things, we're maybe thinking one thing, and if the other person's thinking something else, that's when we get started. That's when we have these things where we have great one-liners from movies. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Right? Because I'm thinking one thing, you're thinking another thing, and when I say what I think is a good expression of what I'm thinking, you're hearing those words based on what you're thinking. And since it's not the same thing, it doesn't come across the same way. All of these things, our body language, our emotional signals, our tone of voice, these are very complex. They're very variety. There's a variety of ways they can be used, and it's just downright confusing. And then Paul comes along and says, stop letting rotten talk come out of your mouth. Stop sounding like a rotten fish.